official determination about that 50 foot. And we can make sure that we're referencing the same chapter and verse that was being brought up.
Yeah, I think we should have some clarification on that if
Thanks, Jim.
for the future as well, especially because I with that clarification that Joe had Mr. Delator had pointed out, it interests me because the road going in, like Brian had said, it is already there. And it abuts. As I pull into that road, the left-hand side, that whole side of that road is abutting someone else's property, I believe.
Correct.
Yes.
And I think that's where I personally would say, okay, that's one of the abutting pieces of property that need to have that visual 50-foot. You see what I mean?
Unfortunately, their driveway, to my knowledge, is off of that existing road.
I know. Somebody's curves off to the left as your road goes off to the right, right?
Right. That's correct.
Yep.
So our road would kind of continue straight along that proposed right of way, and we would provide, I guess, updated access to that lot A.
Right. It's just one of those gray areas, I guess. That I feel like at least
there's an answer to it. I mean, that's something that has an answer.
Yeah.
It's not a lot that's being developed, so I mean, I have to decide whether that's there, but we'll come back to that.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point, though.
Mm-hmm. So just to go back to the big picture for one sec, I've always been under the impression that when a town redoes their comp plan, which don't forget we haven't done in 13 years, you then are supposed to go back to your zoning code and make sure it agrees with your comp plan. And it's possible over time we've changed our zoning ordinance so it now does not agree with parts of it. And that's, I mean, I'm not sure what to do with that except to say we really should be looking at a new comp plan anyway. And then, ensuring that the zoning matches the intent of that, even if we're not there at this moment, and that's unfortunate.
Mm.
Yep.
So, David, is that about right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, you really should. Any kind of ordinance amendment, you should sort of look at in regards to your comprehensive plan. Does it support it? Does it not support it? Things do get changed, adopted, and the letter of the law really is the zoning ordinance wording itself, and the comprehensive plan is the overall picture. We've got two, for example, citizens initiatives that are going to go before the town voters this later on in the year, and those could get passed by the voters, which could have ramifications to the comprehensive plan. But if it's adopted as a townwide ordinance, then we have to sort of go back and adjust the comprehensive plan in theory when those changes are made, or relook at it. So it is hard to keep your comp plan and your zoning ordinance in sync, because let's say when we last looked at the comp plan, probably, well, Paul did that for you way back. So, we probably weren't looking at things like medical marijuana and solar farms and as much. Well, solar farms may be, but you know what I'm saying? Things can get missed.
Is Jack, are you still there? Is Jack Caracas still around? No? Okay. All right.
Okay.
What's the next step, Bill?
I think we've talked a lot about what's necessary, and we need to let these guys respond to our requests and take it up next time.
All right. Thank you for going through that. I know you guys have a hefty ordinance. You gave us an hour. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate your good work and your diligence, and what's what I'm looking for. You're being very straightforward, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Oh, speaking of, we did want to let you know that the abutters were finally notified. I was incorrect. They had not been sent out, but now they have been.
Yeah, okay, all right. All right, thanks very much, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Moving on. We have on old business, major site plan 20011, easygoing, LLC. Harvey Paul Medical Marijuana Storefront at 297 Main Street. I'm not sure we have any business to do today, do we? I see Neil Raposa's here.
How you doing? Yep, no, I know I've been in touch with Dan at the HDC, and we are on the agenda for this coming Tuesday. They didn't have the meeting yesterday, so they're going to have it next Tuesday, so we can discuss it. And I've been in discussions with him about some of the exterior facades and things we can try and do for this. But beyond that, I think that's the only input we have.
Yeah, the way we left it last time was before we schedule a public hearing, we wanted the input and the advice of the Historic District Commission, and that's in process.
And I think what he said was he'd be able to get that to you before the meeting, for the next meeting. So he'd get it to you next Tuesday, right after his meeting.
Right.
So you guys would have a week with that. Yep.
We can put it on the agenda on the Wednesday for the following Wednesday. Okay.
Right. Yep.
Did that want to go to a public hearing, I believe?
That would be the next step. But we didn't want to take it to a public hearing without having the historic issue recommendation from the District Commission.
Yeah, I was just thinking about notification. Could we do the notification parallel with the review from the Historic District, or
I think
we'll just wait?
I think we should wait.
Okay.
Bill, this is Perry Ellsworth. That meeting is scheduled for the Historic District Commission for 7 p.m. on Monday, February 9th now. And it's supposed to, and they were looking at doing it upstairs. I suggested
Monday's the 8th.
That's a Tuesday. Yep.
Tuesday the 9th, Perry.
Yeah.
Or he's got Monday, February 9th, but
That's what I do.
You can try it.
I think it is Monday because we have a town council meeting at the same time Tuesday night.
Okay, I'll double check with him. Yep.
He's going to look to, I've called him and asked him if he wants to do it via Zoom, because we have to be really careful up on the 3rd floor if many people show up there. So I'll get that decision from him tomorrow and clarify Monday or Tuesday. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Perry.
Hey, Bill, can we just pause 1 second because of what's going on in chat? Jessica, did you get that link and find the documents you're looking for online? Because I know they're there. I found them.
I did. Thank you. Yes,
Sure.
I found the site navigation difficult. Much appreciated for Amy's response.
Amy is on top of everything, it seems. Great. Okay. Sorry, Bill. Go ahead.
Great. So let's move on. We're doing fine. There's no old business for the other things, nothing happening there. So that gets us to the discussion items. The first discussion item is broad. It has to do with marijuana issues. Last time, Council Chairman Jack Krigas met with us, and we talked about the first petition article, and we talked about the request for the planning board to review the petition ordinance and to formulate opinions or positions on it. And that was to be done in advance of a town council hearing, a subsequent town council hearing they're going to have on that project probably in March. That's what we talked about. And so we would get something done before then. So that was number one. And today we were going to talk about what the issues are and set a schedule for doing that and how we're going to approach it. And Dave Galbraith has some ideas on that. In addition to that, the medical marijuana growth facility ordinance, which is proposed by the town, having to do with the town's initiative to get out in front of that issue, is there. However, as I understand it, it's in all likelihood what's the word I'm looking for? is going to be extended next week. The moratorium on that is going to be extended for another 6 months in all likelihood. So that is important, but that gives us some time to deal with that. So in my thinking, that's less important than the first. And as I said at the outset, today, we became aware of the second petition ordinance for adult grow and manufacturing facilities, marijuana, which is hot off the presses. We're dealing with a petition that was as submitted to the town. They've determined that they got the proper number of signatures, so it's going through the process. The town attorney looks at that, reviews that ordinance, and can make minor wordsmithing changes to make sure it makes sense in English, legal English. But there can be no substantive changes to the ordinance. It's a petition ordinance that goes through the process and ultimately gets voted on at a time in the future. My understanding from talking or exchanging emails today with Perry is that second petition ordinance is going to be discussed at the town council meeting next Tuesday, and they will likely set a hearing date for it, as they're required to within 30 days of its submission. And that hearing date's going to be later in February, probably. You might recall that there was a question about the hearing that's called for under the ordinance calls for a planning board review and recommendations of that ordinance. That wasn't done on the first one back in December, and that's why they're going to have a subsequent one. There's a question as to whether the council will want our input on that second ordinance to line up with the first, their first hearing. And so I'll ask Perry and Jack. Jack's got his hand up to comment on that. Thank you, Jack. Jack Karikas, Chairman of Town Council.
Thank you, Bill, and everybody else. It's important because of the timelines, the statutory timelines for these things. We received the filing on January 26th. So that means we have to react to that by February 25th. It's 30 days. So we're going to try and schedule a public hearing on the 23rd. So there would be, if it's at all possible, we'd like to get a planning board recommendation for that public hearing.
Yeah.
On that time. It gives you one meeting in the meantime, because you have another meeting on the 17th, specifically for the provisions of Chapter 140 and Table A. I think, whatever research is required for that, it's again, I overheard the conversation about consistency with the comprehensive plan, and we're not trying to influence the board at all and, stick to my business and not get into your business. But when I see yeses all the way across the board, that jumps out as a red flag as far as that consistency. So we have other legal questions that are required pursuant to that, whether or not a citizen initiative can in fact trump the comprehensive plan. We don't know. So, but what we can do tonight is to seek to clarify the timeline, working all the way up towards the June 8th referendum vote. So we have to back off to that to get absentee ballots sent out. We have to have ballots printed, and then we have to be able to have all of our business done so that we can, have all of our ducks in a line for making a recommendation on that.
Jack, thank you. And you mentioned both petition ordinances have a section on 140, which is zoning, but there are other sections which precede that have to do with land use, like the 5-acre requirement. And I thought we talked last time that if we choose to comment on other aspects of it, that's fine. Unless that's not true. I think we may choose to make other comments based on.
Well, if the planning board deems it helpful as a suggestion, we could look at what's proposed, I believe, under what's proposed in now the referenda will be a new chapter 95-A.
Yep.
And if there's time to review that, would be, while it's not specifically mandated that a recommendation be
Right.
made, but in the normal course of business, you know, we try to be very collegial about this. And if you have some salient points.
Yeah, I don't know that we
Well,
need to review all of it, but then we may choose to, I don't know, we haven't talked about it yet. We
Yeah.
may choose to take up some topics in the 95A business as well.
Yeah, but the priority should be Table A, and I believe it's 140-68.
Yeah,
Off the top of my head, I think that's the section that's proposed in, I think it's in both.
It is. A quick read of they're incredibly similar.
Yeah.
In many respects. So I guess what we're hearing is it'd be much cleaner from the council perspective if we do whatever comments we have on the second citizens petition first.
Yeah.
Although-
Yes, if you can get both done, that's fine too.
Yeah, okay.
But we really need that so we don't have to redo the
Right.
public hearing again because we got called on it. You know, we didn't personally, you know, having dealt with these ordinances for 30 years, I didn't know about that provision. I just hadn't, I was blinded to it. So we know about it now, so we have to try and do our best to make it work.
Got it. So that gives us tonight, and that gives us the 17th. Okay.
Yes.
Harry, you got your hand up?
Yeah, the timeline is fragile. We're gonna have to have everything by the second week in April completed because we're gonna have to develop the ballot itself
Right.
and get them printed and get it and have absentee ballots available also. So this timeline, although it there's still another month between here, after this month,
It goes quick.
it's gonna go quick. And
Yeah, but we'll talk about it in a minute. I appreciate all this. My sense is that we can, if we put some attention on it, we can probably take care of this in reasonably short order. Does anyone on the planning board have specific questions about what's required here? I know this is like head spinning stuff because they're related, but they're different.
Well, can you clarify which one we're talking about?
I
We're
think
gonna talk about the two.
Well, the first petition has to do with
adult stores.
adult use marijuana retail stores.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're talking about, okay.
And then this.
Go
The
ahead,
second
Joe.
one is adult use marijuana cultivation / manufacturing facilities.
And that's town initiated.
No.
No.
Excuse me, the ID, I mean, the
Right,
I1 and I2 zoning district one is town.
And that's a third issue. So the two citizens petitions, and the second one we just became aware of today, are very similar, and they're all both on timelines. But it turns out that the second petition for the grow facilities and the manufacturing facilities, because of the requirement for the 30-day public hearing that the council has to have, and the ordinance requirement that at that hearing that the planning board provide its observations, recommendations, that sort of moves that up. It got number 2 goes in the front of the line. And so we have tonight and we have the next time to do that. Jeff.
Just so I'm clear. So the first one was the adult use, regular people establishment retail store.
Correct.
That is the one that we were talking about last time.
That's correct.
This next one, this other one that just came in under the wire, we received email today.
That's correct.
On it. Good. All right. I'm looking at that, and so that's good. So that is for cultivation and manufacturing.
What cultivation is grow, and what they're talking about are big grow facilities, not backyard facilities. And manufacturing is the processing of the cannabis into various products.
And that is for adult grow marijuana or adult manufacturing of adult use marijuana.
Okay.
Both petitions pertain to adult use.
Correct.
Right. I mean, we're not trying to sell this to minors, right?
Right.
or to medical needs.
Not yet. So the when we say adult use, I want to make it clear in my head. When I'm saying adult use, I'm meaning not a patient.
Recreational.
Recreational.
Right.
Recreational is the word you're looking for. Recreational marijuana.
That's not that's a term of art. The term of law is adult use these days.
Okay.
So
Like adult use beer and adult and recreational beer
no,
versus medicinal beer. Okay.
These are evolving terms relative to the law. And I think just we have access to MMA's cheat sheet, which is a listing of the various laws and the provisions under those laws. And I think that would be very helpful to put into your hands. That way there you can see where the different, like I said, bifurcated the last meeting, but the two-way street for what's adult use, which is basically, it's just retail sales, just like if you go buy a 6-pack, and then separating that out from the medical side. And to further confuse things, and I almost hesitate to bring this up at this point in time, but there's, from my review, probably 30 hours in the past 2 weeks, what's emerging in my mind is the significant loophole that's been created by the state surrounding medical marijuana caregivers and what they're permitted to do under state law. Locally, it's a huge loophole.
Can you explain that a little bit more, Jack? What's the loophole exactly? I don't quite see what.
Well, what the town cannot prohibit
Okay.
or limit the number of medical marijuana caregivers. The law says we can regulate it, but I don't know. I don't have the wisdom to say what regulations are appropriate for this because I just don't know. And we're seeking to find that out actively as we go through the process.
Right. But that was always true, right? I mean, we like a few years ago, I remember we had 23 caregivers and they were limited by the number of patients and plants. Has that changed, the number of patients?
There's canopy, I think it's 500 square feet of canopy or something like that. But
okay.
But what is coming to light is the fact that all the other applications provided under the medical marijuana law, which is dispensing, growing, manufacturing, testing, all these categories that are listed as part of it are available so it's like, they call it vertically integrated. So you just don't have a person, growing plants and then selling the flowers or the buds off those plants. You can actually go ahead and get into other phases of that operation. So, and it's thus far unregulated, and now we've grown to 31 caregivers. So what I'm moving ahead on, and we haven't had the opportunity as a council to discuss it thoroughly, is to say, okay, what are reasonable regulations towards this use? Because as the economics grow with this, I think South Berwick, my fear is that we're going to be a soft target, and we want to be prepared. So that's the fourth task on the planning board's list of things to help us with, and that's the draft ordinance that is currently with you.
For
cultivation.
The one where the town has taken the initiative for the grow?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's an attempt to start the thinking, excuse me, to get some regulations on paper and approved.
Right. Okay. So, but to be clear, the caregiver issues and the medical grow issue are separate from the two
Absolutely.
citizens
Absolutely.
petition articles. The two citizens petition articles are entirely separate from those other things. And that it's easy to get your head scrambled in this. I know.
But the more we talk about it, the better we're all going to be.
Right.
So
Right.
I'll risk it by, I'll risk misspeaking on the attempt to try and
Right.
bring more clarity. But I think, like I said, I'll forward to the chairperson that cheat sheet, and he can distribute it or forward it to Amy, and she can probably have it in the office right now, as a matter of fact.
Right.
And at least it's a one pager to show where things go under the various laws.
Yeah, good.
The state has not done us any favors. That's clear to me.
Perry.
I will forward that plus all the other materials that Jack shared with me that I had some of them anyway, but there's that plus the actual marijuana statutes and whatnot. And anything that comes up with the OMP, I think it is, or it's a Office of Marijuana Management. They are trying to change the laws, I think they are, but they're not still going to give us anything. When it comes to medical marijuana, I want everybody in this group to know that we have no right to enter into any particular business. We have no right to even know how much business they're doing. These are some things that I've been looking into recently myself, along with Jack, trying to work with him to get some, get some clarification so that we can move forward. So I think probably anything that Jack and I are gathering, the planning board at least ought to get a copy of it. And we started our new page for marijuana on our website. So it also needs to be posted there so that the public is aware.
So coming back to the citizens petition articles, and in this framework, we got these two things. What is known and what can we say publicly about the genesis of those two petition articles?
Well, what we have is a citizen initiative, and it's referenced under the code, a couple of different spots, and they've gathered signatures of registered voters. Those signatures and names have been verified by the town clerk and certified. We got that document today for the second one. And so the first one was certified back in, well, it was filed back in November. So we have to basically follow the rules with respect to that, and we can't get in the way of it, of the process of it, but we can inform the town, and we can inform, ourselves as to whether or not we think it's a good idea or not.
And the planning board has the position, if not the responsibility, to review these things and provide any comment or recommendations we might have on how these things should be viewed, whether they should be adopted, whether they should not be adopted, you name it. We can come up with a broad range of positions.
Yeah, it's a recommendation, and it's always good practice to back up your recommendation with some sort of a fact finding.
Right. So, with that, have members of the planning board been able to look at the first petition article or even the second petition article before tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so assuming that they're very similar in structure, and I think they are, they're written by the petitioner. They're not written except in whatever the petitioner chooses to have in the petition. One might suspect that they're rather narrowly written, maybe not.
Wow, another word I think would be self-serving, Bill, and I'll go on record as saying that actually, but okay.
So that's what we have. And there are things in there on the chapter 95 of how the things are set up, limitations of town abilities, the 5-acre thing. On the zoning thing, there's a set of performance requirements which are there's really nothing given to the planning board doesn't have the ability to review, nothing on parking, nothing on anything, nothing on a lot of things, and the ability to be located in all zones in town, but a 5-acre lot. So figure that out. There aren't a lot of 5-acre lots in the B1 zone, for example, unless you're going to aggregate a bunch of lots, which could be done. You can make lots, whatever. 5 acres is 5 acres, whatever that means. And all zones are all zones, and we know what that means. So those are two things which we can chew on and think about. There may be other aspects of the ordinance which we may want to think about. I think the 140 table A thing, I'll go on record as saying it's on the face of it, it's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense to say that the zoning ordinance that we have is well thought out. The uses are well thought out. Where they go is well thought out. We've all been dealing with these things for years, if not recently, about what can go where. And to have this blanket, it can go anywhere, regardless of the nature of these facilities. And these facilities, the adult retail, I mean, you can look, there's one up just out of town across the golf course, Kind Farms. And that's one example. There's one north or going to North Berwick on the left, Trican. That's one example. There's stuff going south. So these are big facilities for the retail things. And you want one of those in a residential zone? I don't think so. And the 5-acre thing just baffles my mind as to where that came from and what that all means. But the idea that you basically throw the zoning ordinance out if you're going to allow these in any zone. You're saying it doesn't matter. We don't think about it unless they really think that they're appropriate. Now, on the grow side, the thing that showed up today, these grow facilities are big. They're not small. They're hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of square feet of building with mechanical systems and people coming and going and trucks coming and going and air handling systems and all that. They're big facilities that have lots to them. I've seen them here, I've seen them there, and they're not a mom and pop organization necessarily. In fact, they're likely not a mom and pop organization. So the applicability, the desirability, all that of these zoning things, I think we can probably come to some pretty clear conclusions sooner than later. But we want to read them and have maybe some deeper dives into some of these things as well. The other thing I'm going to comment on, I'll get in trouble for this. The medical thing, we've dealt with the medical storefront business, and there was a whole argument about having things that are of value to local people who need cannabis for medical reasons. And there was a tie to the community that has been debated about what that's all about and what the good is. My view on these things is there's no tie to the community. This is dollars. People can come to South Berwick and set up shop with no tie to the community and just have a commercial operation. Now, if the idea is that commercial is good, money's good, business is good, that's one way to look at it. But we're looking at big money coming in and perhaps taking these ordinances, if they were to be adopted, and leaving the town with precious little control over projects which are could have very large impacts. So I guess I'm developing my statements here, but but I want to stop talking. And does any other board member have preliminary comments? And then I'm going to ask David to weigh in on what they think about these ordinances so far. Hey, Jeff.
I've versed a little bit on at the town council meeting, their last town council meeting. I personally, just me as Jeff Minahan, reading through the state law as I've done all the last 2 weeks, looking at our ordinances, looking at other towns' ordinances, I think that I think it's a mistake for us as a town to think that we have an opt-out. And the reason why I believe that is by reading this state law, you're automatically not dumped in as a town. But as we're seeing, citizens can bring it on us, and now we have to deal with it. And if enough citizens vote yes, it's now on us, and we have to deal with it. My personal belief is that we as a town, we as a board and as a town council, we need to upfront it as we're doing today, like with Dave's submission, is upfront this and make ordinances and figure it out, and don't let it happen to us, but happen to it. And I'm concerned about dispensaries and testing facilities, as Jack had mentioned. I agree 100% with you, Jack. These are going to be coming at us next as well. But if we make the ordinance and we say, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to manage it, then we have control, and we're not saying, oh my goodness, it's everywhere. So I think that however, wherever you rest on it, I think that just upfronting it rather than turning a blind eye and saying, no, we don't want it, and just pretending it's not there. We're all seeing it's there. So we need to handle it. And I just, another thing, I'm doing a little bit more study into the main, and I mentioned it also at the town council meeting. I'm doing more study into the main state law, the Right to Farm Act, where there's some clearer definitions about agriculture, and we might want to look at realigning ourselves with how we define agriculture there, because as I'm reading and understanding, hemp is part of agriculture. Marijuana is not. And so I do think that gives potentially the town some legs to be able to work with there. So it's very sticky all the way around. So that's just the beginning of what I've been seeing.
Okay, very good. Yeah, Hershey, thanks.
So I will echo Jeff, well put. Thank you for saying that. And Bill too. I agree that I think we should get out in front of this, and that way we get to control what we want in our town or don't want in our town. And I'm not sure where the opt-in or opt-out really comes in right now. But I think, we should spend a lot of time, as much as we have, thinking about where we want things and where we don't want things and how that will look. And, if it's narrow, that's okay. So I also would like to speak about the petitions. It's unfortunate that one individual can press their own advantage with a citizen's petition. I don't really think that's in the spirit of democracy or what they're meant for, but there you have it. I also wouldn't take that right away from us. So whatever it cost or however it worked. That being said, clearly I agree with Bill. This was not thought out in terms of zoning, and I think it's simple to say right off the bat, I'm against them. And I would hope that the planning board would agree and come to consensus and make a recommendation, that is to vote no on both of those. So I'll leave it there without, making this a really long meeting for everybody.
Yeah. Other comments? Betsy?
I will echo the same sentiments as Hershey. I when we got them, and to see the table that they were allowed in any zone, it just, to me, was a non-starter. I just think that that would just potentially ruin the some of the best parts of our town. Yep. That's my feeling anyways. In terms of the growth facilities though, I do want to just mention you know, they are large, but one thing that hasn't been brought up yet is, you know, the people that are employed in these large growth facilities that have to then prepare it for packaging, trimmers, they're often transients. It hasn't been legal long enough for there to be people who are steady one place. They're not just driving all over the country doing whatnot. I in particular would be extremely concerned about having a growth facility in the town, just from what I know about having kind of people coming in, people coming out. You don't really know who they are. I don't like it.
Okay. I think on the zoning table A, that's one thing, but we probably need to take a look. They have 1 page or a page and a half of performance requirements, which is laughable, and that has to go along with it as well, because I think we need to be specific about what's wrong with the performance requirements as they've talked about them. Jack.
Yeah, Jeff reminded me of something that I've seen in my research, and that is the after 2021, the number of dispensaries will be unlimited. That's an important point in terms of the overall preparation piece. We started out with 8, and I think it's 14 right now, and now it's after 2021, it's going to be unlimited. So that's important. The other thing I'd point out to the planning board also is that Perry and I went to a seminar where one of the dispensary owners spoke at Southern Maine up in Sanford, and it was very informative. And in that, he felt as though that the grow facilities were in fact light industry, and the performance standards should be tailored towards a light industrial application. When we look at our ordinance for the definition of light industry, of course, it doesn't, when that was written, it didn't contemplate this sort of a use. But I would just, if there's time and if there's an opportunity to take a look at that definition, perhaps we expand that, because in fact, that's what it is.
Okay. Any other board comments? Then I'm going to open it up for other people with if there's brief comments by the interested parties also on this Zoom call. I'd be more than happy to hear them. Okay, you're listening. So David, back to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that in both of the citizens' petitions, they are listed as Ys in the allowed use table. So they would be an allowed use without the requirement for planning board review.
Right.
It is possible. So that, again, that was one of the things that looking at a use table all the way across, I agree with Jack that I can't think of almost any use that I would think should go in every single zone that I've come across.
Actually, I didn't catch that, Dave. So if you're a Y, you just need a building permit, right? You don't need a.
I would defer to Joe on that, but the way that so I would think that they would have to go through site plan review if they're building a building for this or any other, for example, industrial use. However, the way that they have proposed both of the charts is just a yes, which means it's a permitted use by right. And Joe, correct me if I'm wrong on that. I don't know if Joe can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm listening, but I don't have my voice on. And that is true. A Y means the only thing that's it's allowed, and if you have a building or something that you're going to have, then that requires a permit. But there would be no review of any boards with a Y. So it should.
So with that Y,
right,
the planning board itself has no jurisdiction. Is that correct?
And that's by the way it was proposed, correct.
I understand.
But where you define it and now you want to put in a site plan review or something like that, that's where you change the table.
Yeah, we got that. Yeah. so issues like traffic, like parking, like buffers, like odor control, which is huge on these things. We're dealing with odor
Correct.
control on the medical things, the medical storefronts. That's tiny compared to these things, tiny.
Right, I know.
They're proposing to have no planning board review for any of these facilities, just a building permit.
Right, but I mean,
As
they
it's
do,
proposed, yeah.
right, they are proposing some standards, so they'd have to fall within the standards that they have proposed.
As long
So
as
they'd still have to operate, but they wouldn't need your approval or
Right.
your review to do it.
So long as they could convince Joe that they met those standards.
Correct. Well, I think it's a very important distinction.
Oh, it's a
It's
huge,
not-
I didn't focus on that properly. Yeah, that's a monstrous thing.
Yeah. So from what I'm gathering from the board, and stop me at any time, is maybe I'll ask Jack, if the board should put together an opinion whether the proposed ordinances should be denied or accepted or endorsed, as it were. The board feels that we should, you would not endorse the passing of either of these ordinances, and list out some of these reasons why. Perhaps because of the timeline, I'm just trying to think of how we can get all of that information into a single document that the board could review at the next meeting. And I could happily put some of those together, and we could wordsmith it at the next meeting while everyone's present.
I think that's the only way it's going to work, David.
Okay, so I can start drafting those if that's appropriate.
So some of the things we're talking about are the chapter 95A, the proposed chapter, the 5 acre thing, which is, where's that come from? And what's that all about? And there may be other things in chapter 95. I guess I'd urge board members to take a look, and if they have some particular comments, they can pass along to David late this week before the weekend. That'd be great. And then under the zoning, it's all the zoning zones, districts, and B, I didn't get this till just now, David. The Y takes the planning board out of it.
Yep.
And there are only vague and incomplete performance standards that the planning board can't even, no one evaluates except for the building permit.
That's the way I saw it.
Yeah,
And because, for example, if you were to go back to the ordinance that is being proposed by the town regarding allowing medical marijuana growing, it was listed as no's in all of the categories with the exception of I-1 and I-2.
Major site plan.
Which we did major site plan.
Right. And that's what on the medical storefronts, we have major site plan in whatever districts we have.
Correct.
And they're limited to those districts, and it's a major site plan, even though the installations are rather simple, but they're required to go through a detailed planning board review of things like signs and frosting of windows and odor control and all that. And so these kind of facilities are 100, 1,000 times more complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could do that, David, that would be incredibly helpful. And if there's ways to circulate drafts in advance of the meeting, so we can be prepared as we can in 2 weeks, that would be, we'll do the best we can.
For clarification, would that be I would start drafting it up as a memo from the planning board,
correct,
to Perry and the town council.
That's correct.
Okay,
that's correct.
If I can interrupt,
yeah,
there are other applications that may warrant consideration, and that is the fact that under federal law, this is still a scheduled drug, and as a scheduled drug, they can't do banking. The proprietors, it's cash only. They don't have access. I think some of the insurance laws might have changed. Not sure, but there's normal things that other businesses take as routine that are not available. So,
So these guys have suitcases of money, huh?
well, listening to a former Maine DEA agent and now is actually in the armored car business to help out these facilities, they're very concerned about, the businesses being soft targets. So there are other applications that could give rise to a problem that is, no one knows. No
Right.
one knows whether or not someone's gonna, be attractive to
Okay.
some hoods.
The other, I'll get you in a second, Jeff. There's a letter from the police chief that's out there with his recommendations, which are to be, we should, I think, has everybody got that?
Yep. I do.
I think I forwarded that to the board members.
Yep.
And that's relevant, and we can perhaps incorporate some aspects of that in our thing too. Jeff, you had something?
Just not to dump more work on David, but I know with Joe and maybe even Amy here. So one of the questions that I had on the current one that's was about the time frame. I'm concerned about the amount of resources it would take from the town to be able to administer it as written. And it seemed a little heavy-handed towards the marijuana people side. Like for renewing the applications, I'm not sure. It basically said like we had 60 days to extend and then the town need to give them a 60-day notification by mail, then 30-day notification by mail, then a phone call. And it just seems like really excessive. I wasn't sure if that was standard, if we even do that with our liquor licenses. I don't.
I'm sorry, on which one are you referring to, Jeff? Is this?
Yeah, the one that's been around for a while.
In the industrial zone, medical growing in the industrial
we're talking
zone?
citizen petitions.
It's the citizens petitions, right?
Citizen petition, yeah.
Okay, so the first citizens petition is about the adult use marijuana retail stores.
Yep.
Okay.
So under section, it says section 9, looks like.
Hold on, I'm pulling that out right now.
There's application contents and procedure.
Number 9 is renewal of application. Is that what you're looking at?
There you go, renewal of application.
Page 9.
I just wasn't sure if not knowing the whole procedure on like even how we handle like liquor licenses being re-upped. Do we hold their hand like this ordinance is requiring?
There's so many documents that we've been discussing, and I had a bunch of them backed up right here, but I could probably go in there.
It's not necessarily an answer I need right now. I'm just was wondering, knowing that I felt personally that this ordinance was a burden to town resources, because somebody is going to need to be paid to say, hey, 60 days out, you need to do what you should be doing anyway, and 30 days out. And then we got to give you a phone call. And then after you still don't do what you're supposed to do, you still get 60, 70, 80, 90 days to actually do it. It's very ridiculous. And I wasn't sure if that was standard.
So Jeff, I'd like to point out that I got a call from City Hall to license my dog personally, which I found extraordinary.
Well,
So
there you go.
the personal
too.
attention to my dog's
did,
license who was dead, by the way, but just, I didn't miss it.
Perry, do you have something to add to Jeff's comment?
Yes, because the way that these are written, it would be no different than it is with our need to license garbage haulers, which we have chase them, and we still have a number that aren't registered with us yet or licensed with us yet. This would be very similar that in the way that it's written, what I see. A liquor license is simplistic. It's a standard application. They fill it out, they give it to the clerk. And basically the town council looks at it. If there's no violations, it goes to state, we don't see it again. But both of these appeared to me to have a lot of that issues that could take time eventually. And then there's the time to monitor that would have to go into code to make sure you keep it up. You want to remember, we only have from a medical marijuana status, we only have 2 agents that visit all the facilities and all the caregivers in the state of Maine right now. So it's I think it is going to add burden to the duties of the town office.
But can I ask, haven't we had medical marijuana be legal in Maine for about 10 or 11 years now? And we've had all these people growing marijuana in our town this entire time.
79. I think it was 79.
1979?
No, no,
Really?
97.
97.
98, Jack.
Okay, so let's stay off that. Let's just go back to our petitions. Okay, we have plenty of reasons to hate these petitions. I say let's just,
Yeah,
let's one thing at a time.
So, are there any other basic areas of concern to highlight for David's consideration? And again, I would ask board members to take a few minutes or an hour or two and sit down with these things and share your specific concerns with David and the board so David can get writing. And then if David can get us a draft by a week and a half or so, maybe the weekend before the next meeting, then we'll have the ability to, be as productive as we can on the 17th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just as an additional suggestion for David, Bill, as we're drafting the findings, do so in a positive, make a positive statement about it. In other words, as opposed to saying, doesn't do this, phrase it positively, because that'll add to clarity when they're reviewed subsequently.
Hey, Jack, can I ask you a question? Just it's not quite off topic, but I keep seeing this note from people that it costs $10,000 to have this petition before us. I don't know where that number came from, and I was trying to track it down. Do you have any? You or Perry have any comment about what?
That's all on the petitioner side. We have no skin in the game that way.
So it doesn't cost us money to do this.
It does.
Well, we're doing it right now. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 staff sitting here.
All right, but at the time, I mean, the attorney reviewing it, is that part of a retainer? Do we pay him by the hour? I mean, is there some huge cost to all this?
We're going to wind up with my guesstimate is we're going to spend $10,000 to $15,000 on this because we're paying for David's time when he's talking about a petition. Also, we're paying for our attorney anytime that he's discussing it with us. We have to have the ballots printed. We have to have the absentee ballots sent out. Staff has to work with that.
But aren't we having an election anyway, and there's going to be ballots anyhow, and it's just a part of that ballot?
We create our own ballots for this and pay for them.
Is this a separate ballot from the other one?
This is a separate ballot just for
the school district is their thing. We're going to piggyback on that same day of the election, but it's a separate election.
But it's a separate ballot.
Yeah.
It's a separate ballot for these, and we have to develop them, print the absentee ballots. We have to take care of all of those costs on top of attorney costs to put the ballot together. So there's a substantial cost involved here through this whole process. Thank you.
Perry, if there is just needing to know how it's done in town, is there on the ballot, is there a notation that is, for example, in this case, would not the 2 proposals are not recommended for adoption by the planning board? And does it note that, and does it say the same about the town council if the town council votes also the same way?
The town council can't vote either way. They represent both sides of this question.
True, sorry.
Citizens piece. The planning board can mention those items that don't fit for whatever reason. It would be the question you're asking, David, and the group needs, I tried to help the group understand this, is that you will go in there and it'll be a simple question, like when you're voting for president or somebody running for council, those type of things. You'll either put an X for yes or no. That's it.
So can I just ask, Perry?
Yeah.
And I don't, maybe this is a change in how we do things, but if you vote on a citizens initiative in California, there's actually a pro and a con, and it's printed with your ballot, right? And there's a group that's allowed to put an argument on each side of it when you go in to vote. Are we not allowed to do that?
That's right. We're not allowed to do that. It's
Okay.
It's going to be a simple yes or no vote, just like we have for voting for the are you in favor of this? Yes or no?
Yeah, in the charter itself, under citizens petition, it says, it gives the content of the ballot. Yes, no.
That's it. That's basically it.
So the question is, the planning board's opinion can't appear on the ballot as well?
No.
No.
Can our opinion appear on the planning board website, on the town website?
It can
Absolutely.
appear, your opinion can appear in any materials on our website as your opinion.
Right.
And as can the things like the little election panels and stuff they put out, vote no on this question or something like that. I think it behooves the town to put out as much information as they can in advance as to what does this petition really mean? What does it allow? They're all things that many who are listening still here have brought to us in the past, brought to you in the past, and you brought up again tonight that this will allow someone to build a facility on Main Street because agriculture is allowed here. Every zone, those type of things are the things that people need to understand. And it's a shame on us, but all of us have signed petitions at one time or another just to get somebody out of our face. But now we have this, we need to deal with it. And I think you're dealing with it in a very rational fashion. Jack's spending a tremendous amount of time, and he and I are consulting a lot on what we can do and what we can't do and what barriers we might put in the way if they were legal barriers to put there.
I have another question for David, I guess. David, is there anything that prevents us from amending the ordinance if this passed? Afterwards?
No, after the fact, like any ordinance, the planning board could say, we want to look at this. The problem is the time between when this citizens initiative would get adopted until the planning board could actually get something in place. And because it would be an ordinance amendment, that goes back to townwide vote.
Yeah, and you can rest assured, the time it would take to modify this amendment, there'd be some number of proposals that we're stuck with.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, there would be.
Mm-hmm.
These guys I presume, are ready to move.
These are legal questions, and all of us that are involved with this are trying to. Frankly, I don't know the questions to ask. To frame for a legal opinion, but it does bring up. I have thought of this in the past. Just to say that if this does pass in June, could we sue because on certain basis of undermining the other principles of the ordinance, and then seek a restraining order to get more time. So,
well,
no, but those are hypotheticals. But
that's creative. I like that, Jack. I like the way you think.
But it's again, it's more money. But how serious are we about it?
Yeah.
But again, that has to be. Those are the type of things we have to deal with. Phil Saucier on, our town attorney.
as an aside, I was involved in a couple of citizens petitions back before 10 years ago or more. And and I was on the petitioner side. There were political issues having to do with zoning issues and whatnot. And it takes, and we were successful, but it takes a tremendous amount of work to get people to go out and vote, yes or no. A lot, and if you're trying to mobilize people to care about an issue, positive or negative, it takes a lot of work. And so we're talking about what we can do as a town board, as part of the process that might be helpful, but there's going to be people that are going to be required to take a bunch of perspectives, perhaps including the planning board's perspectives, and sell this thing. Now, we can't do that. We're a town board, but we can reach some positions that we support that could be public, and they may well be used by others to do a sell job here. Okay, this has been a great discussion, and before we end up, I think everybody's getting very tired like me. I'll give the opportunity for anybody who's listening in to want to say something Greg Zinzer. There you go.
Yep. Thank you, Bill. Hopefully a quick question. This issue of agricultural use keeps coming up. But before I get into that, I also want to point out that whether it's adult use or medical, these issues, when we're talking about cultivation, they're one and of the same. So even medical cultivation facilities can be very large. But on that issue of agriculture, it was stated in the past at a prior hearing that the rationale as to why the town council was directing the development of medical cultivation into the I-1, I-2 was because if it didn't go in there and the ordinance ultimately failed, it could go anywhere in the agricultural zone or anywhere where agricultural uses are allowed, which gets to, I think, possibly what Jeff is saying. And what Jeff is saying is Title VII regarding agricultural use and the main statute, specifically 2231, Title VII 2231 regarding hemp. I think this is a core issue to make sure that needs to be decided to make sure that we're all on the same page going into this. And to me, I think a legal opinion, not that I can authorize it, is in order because it really changes the dynamic of how personally I would review the potential cultivation ordinance, the medical cultivation ordinance. And what I mean by that is if this fails and if we're attempting to direct the medical growth into the I-1, I-2 under duress of, if we don't do that, it can go into any area where agricultural use is allowed. Is that in fact true? Title VII, the agricultural use for this specifically excludes marijuana, both adult use and medical. So if they're saying that, it can go in wherever agricultural use is allowed, is that true? If that is the case, I will be looking at the medical growth cultivation ordinance with a different lens, so to speak, that, okay, geez, we better really direct it into this area if this in fact is a true loophole. I think that is a core and a key issue that needs to be looked at while it's under moratorium. If it's determined that, in fact, it can't go into any agricultural use area because Title VII 2231 prohibits that, then changes my outlook personally on what I think is an appropriate ordinance in the I-1, I-2. Now I start to look at that and say, okay, does it need to be an I-1, I-2, or could it be just an I-2? Could it be in just an I-1? So I think there's a key and a core legal question that needs to be answered to make sure that we're all on the same page as it pertains to this whole question of agricultural use. And so if that can get answered, I think that would add some clarity to how and where this can go in. So when we're talking about the ordinance, it can be appropriately considered and not be, whether it be under duress that it will go in everywhere else or not. So I think that would be important. And I'm happy to clarify that if I need to. But again, Title 7, 2231, that's specifically in regards to hemp.
Yeah.
It excludes medical and adult use. I just want to also ask one clarifying question in terms of how the word gets out about what the planning board, how we get your word out, depending on whatever action you take at the public hearing regarding the absurd petitions, frankly. I understand that it can't go on the ballot, but that I understand correctly that on these little A-frames or whatever, I've seen it before, a little position statement can be posted there on the entrance to the voting booth area about what the planning board did. I understand it can't go on the ordinance, but can that happen? I thought I heard yes, but I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know that we know that, but that's a good question.
I think the first start will be that it definitely should go on the town website.
Yeah, everything goes on the website, and then from there, people can pick it up. Barbara Hopkins? Oh, yeah, I can't hear you. You need to be louder. Your microphone's not working. No. Go ahead. No, not really. Thank you.
Okay.
Steve Bays?
I appreciate the board looking at this and understand the tight timeline. One of the residents, one of the citizens on Agunquit Road who lives across from the individual who has put both these petitions out. So certainly that's why it's put in all zones, is because he is out here in the R5 and the 5-acre issue. He has 40 acres. This prevents the competition. This prevents the storefronts downtown, the medical storefronts, from being able to convert to a adult use store. Also, he has the conditional licenses with the state of Maine, both for the adult use cultivation and the adult use retail store. He's all set up, ready to rock and roll on those issues. So I'm certainly encouraged by what I've heard tonight. I know you haven't formulated your final opinion, but certainly encouraged, and I'll certainly actively work to communicate the planning board's opinion on this out to the community. And you touched on all the things that are real concerns, and if anybody, you can also think about it as not just a marijuana thing. You could think about it as retail of anything or manufacturing of anything. How should we deal with it in relation to the comp plan, the things you touched on with the site plan reviews and all that. And going back to Jack's comment about a legal opinion, perhaps we start with just the fact that these are, the second petition, can that be accepted as a legal petition? Since it does not comply with our comp plan, which is required under the state of Maine laws. Can we start, if we want to challenge one of these, why don't we just start big and start initially and not wait till it gets to the end. So I again appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, it's 8:45. I think we're probably running out of gas, but Jeff's got another idea.
I think, is it Kathy had her hand raised?
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Kathy Butler, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kathy on Springtree Lane. I have been talking to people about this. I don't support the storefronts. I don't support the growing facilities. And a lot of the concerns are around, it gets compared to alcohol consumption. Well, everybody consumes alcohol and you can buy that in our town. And I just, that point, I understand what they're saying. We're talking about another drug that people have access to, but our storefronts that sell these, the grocery store, the gas stations, restaurants, none of them started as alcohol sales stores. They're there for other purposes, they're there for other reasons. They've gone through pretty stringent licensing laws to be able to have this. And as we've heard in the discussion today, not many really clear laws when it comes to the marijuana sales as far as adult use. So that was one thing that they're concerned with. The other thing a lot of people are concerned with is the long-term effects of marijuana on an adolescent brain. Friends across the board, people who are concerned, have mentioned studies about it depleting gray matter and causing a lot of mental health issues. I have no idea what the police chief said, but there could be an uptick in crisis interventions that are needed. And is the town able to afford extra help in supporting those people because of this? So I just want to put it out there, outside of all the zoning issues and the ways to regulate it, there are these other concerns that citizens have. And I just wanted to make that known. Thank you. And thank you for all your work.
Jessica Sear?
Hey there, Jessica Sear on Academy Street. I thought the interaction was great tonight within the meeting. I just wanted, one point you kept referencing the MMA's definitions of certain items that posted publicly might be really helpful for everyday citizens to get on the same page as you. So I just wanted to express that. It might be a good addition to the website.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, we got we've thought about this and we made a plan and we got work to do. And David's got a lot of work to do, but I think we'll help him with it, and we'll do everything we can do to get this taken care of. Oh, here I see Ilaria.
I see that you have medical marijuana storefront setback and zoning. Is that being skipped this evening?
Yes, we're running out of gas.
Will that be for the next meeting?
Could be. It's not on a time frame. It's a general topic because we can choose to take it up. We can make it a priority next time or not. But I think we've run out of gas tonight. Thanks.
Is there any direction as far as the medical growing in the industrial districts, or
I think we decided at the beginning of this discussion that that's important, but because of the moratorium that's coming in, it can lag these other issues, and we can take it up when we get done with the citizen petitions. So it's important, but it's not as pressing time-wise as the citizen petitions.
Great.
All right. Well, thanks very much. I'm going to go back to our agenda and probably ask for skipping the final discussion item, which was the sign ordinance, which we haven't spent any time on, and because we've been sidetracked here. And some people who are interested in it have, I think they may be here, but we're just not going to get there.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Yeah. So I'll place that on the agenda for next week or the next time too. We'll try to do it then. Any other comments, member comments? Then I'll ask for the motion to skedaddle from somebody.
I'll move to end the meeting.
Okay. A second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
All right.